Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. Today we are talking all things Giants and Commanders, and we're going to talk about players to watch. But first, we have to talk about Andrew Thomas because the final injury report doesn't come out until Friday afternoon. But at this rate, I don't think we're seeing Andrew Thomas on Sunday, and here's why. So Wednesday was the only padded practice that the Giants have all week, which is obviously the most important practice, right? What we know is that Thomas was suited up in pads and was definitely doing some individual stuff, but he was limited as a participant in practice. Now, the problem with this is that the media was not available in the 11 on 11s, and they spoke to Dable prior to practice, and we all know what Dable likes to tell us, which is a whole lot of nothing. So Dable just said Andrew Thomas is improving day to day. So that's helpful, right? So then Thursday, as part of Andrew Thomas's plan, according to Brian Dable, he was not going to practice. So we had the day off. But here is my concern with this, right? They had one padded practice all week, and Thursday's practice, if they weren't in pads and they were just in shells, realistically, how aggressive of a practice was it? So they were afraid to put Andrew Thomas out there. And Friday, I think, is usually a walkthrough. I know Saturday is, but if Friday is some sort of walkthrough light practice, it's so frustrating to me. And the thing that really just grinds my gears and infuriates me even more is Landon Dickerson, who had some sort of injury during the summer, and they thought that he was going to be out for a while. And surprise, surprise, Landon Dickerson, All-Pro Pro Bowl tackle, is ready to go on the Thursday night season opener for the Eagles. But Andrew Thomas, who had surgery in October and then another minor surgery in April, is still not ready for week one. It is so frustrating. I have lambasted this medical staff for years, and I will probably continue to do so because I don't understand what the problem is and why we always seem to have, number one, the most injuries in the league, number two, the most conservative with everyone in their injuries, and number three, it's like no one is ever ready to go. And I'm being dramatic right now, okay? I understand that because the injury report, Andrew Thomas is the only one on it, okay? So for the first time probably ever, we only have one person on the injury report, which is amazing, okay? I hope it lasts longer than 1 week. But it's frustrating because you see this happen around the league where players deal with injuries and they seem to come back light years before any Giants player does. And, Andrew Thomas is the glue that makes this whole offense work. And, it's just a completely different game on Sunday if Andrew Thomas is on the field than if he's not on the field. And the way I'm feeling right now is that he's not going to be on the field, and it's super disappointing. I hope I'm wrong on this. I think ultimately the final injury report that comes out is going to say that he's questionable, and they're going to say we're going to decide at game time, and we won't find out until Sunday morning. But I just think it's not looking great. So let's move on to something that is looking great, though, and it's our boy Malik Neighbors. So when we talk about players to watch in this game, I know everyone's really excited about Malik Neighbors, as we all should be, but Leak has been incredible, especially against the Commanders. So that first outing, I just want to go through some of his stats here real quick. So the first outing against the Commanders, where we lost by a field goal because the Giants head coach can't get their shit together and didn't have a kicker. Out of 18 targets, he had 10 receptions for 127 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, the second game, not as great. He had 11 targets, 9 receptions for 59 yards. Now, keep in mind, this was also when Andrew Thomas was out. So, obviously, the targets were still relatively high in the double digits, but not as many yards because probably a lot of different reasons. I'm sure one of them being the fact that Andrew Thomas was not out there. But either way, I think if there's anyone to be excited about and to be focused on when it comes to the offense, it's obviously Malik Neighbors. He's good at yak yardage. He's good at contested catches. He's good at everything, okay? I am so excited to see him back on the field and to see him with a quarterback who's accurate. The fact that Malik Neighbors was able to get over 1,200 yards last year with 4 different quarterbacks, a bad offensive line when Andrew Thomas went down, and a whole slew of other issues is incredible. I just know this year is going to be even better. So I already bet that my beloved Malik Neighbors is going to have a touchdown on Sunday, and I cannot wait to see it happen. Now, let's switch gears to the defense because I know some people are down on Kayvon, and listen, I have had my moments with Kayvon, let me tell you, but I'm going into this season with Kayvon, and I'm really optimistic about him because I think he did some really smart things this offseason, taking up wrestling that's going to help him finish those tackles. And I also think that the added layer of having Abdul Carter on this team is really going to benefit Kayvon, because one of his issues, aside from the fact that he wasn't finishing those sacks and tackles, is that I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, at the end of games, he is winded. Like, it looks like he just ran a triathlon or did a triathlon or something, because he is so exhausted. He's like always using the oxygen and stuff like that. So the fact that he's not going to have to play as many snaps now because we have Abdul Carter, I think is really going to benefit Kayvon. And Kayvon is a guy who has historically played very well against the Commanders as well. He had a forced fumble return for a touchdown. He's had, I believe, a couple sacks, and he just seems to play really well against them. Now, to be fair, the Giants as a whole have typically played well against the Commanders over the last few years, outside of last year, but they didn't play against anyone well last year. So, the Commanders are not an outlier. But I just think that he is a guy that everyone should be watching tomorrow. And he's not the only one. I know we're all excited about Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence. How could we not be? But I think that Kayvon and Brian Burns are going to be the superstars of the defense on Sunday. I think that Kayvon, like I said, is going to benefit from all of that. But I think that Burns, him being voted a captain this year, the fact that he's fully healthy, the fact that they're all in year 2 of the system, Burns goes after everything with 150%. And I think we're really going to see that on Sunday. And he's a guy that I'm also really excited to watch. Like, I know it's just all of the edge rushers, the defensive line, like there's nothing not to like. Also, they're going against a rookie right tackle. So Kayvon is a guy, he's got to get at least one sack on Sunday. I'd be happy if he gets one. If there's a couple throughout the defensive line, if Abdul Carter gets one, I don't care. We need sacks on the defense. But I really think that Kayvon is that guy that I want to see it from. Obviously, I want to see it from the rest of them, but I kind of think that Kayvon still has some things to prove. And if he can go out there week 1 and light it up like he has typically done against the Commanders, this is the time to do it in week 1, where not only Kayvon, but everyone needs to prove themselves and to prove that they're not going to be a shitty football team this year just because they have a hard schedule. They have to go out there and show it. And I think Kayvon, I hope, is going to be able to do it. So keep your eyes on number 5 on the defense. Lastly, let's go with my final prediction here. You guys let me know what you think is going to happen. I've kind of been going back and forth with Commanders fans, and I know they're all hyped after going to the NFC Championship and whatever. I think they had a little beginner's luck last year. I think that their roster is good. I don't think it's great. I think if you look at the NFC East, I don't think anyone's roster is great. When you look at the Eagles, I just don't think that any of them are even close. And the Commanders won a lot of games last year. A lot of them were close games. A lot of them were 7 points or less. And a lot of them were to some really bad quarterbacks. And, you can argue that Russell Wilson is not what he used to be. He's a hell of a lot better than Daniel Jones, Tim Boyle, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito. So at the very least, he's going to be accurate. He's going to get the ball in our wide receivers' hands, and he's going to give them the opportunity to make a play. Now, in my opinion, Andrew Thomas is the biggest factor as to whether or not this team wins. I don't think that Andrew Thomas is going to play. Now, do I think the offense is going to completely crumble without Andrew Thomas? No. Obviously, it's not going to be what it would be with Andrew Thomas, but I think that they can still be functional and still move the ball down the field because of 2 things. Number 1, the rest of the offensive line has played a lot together. Number 2, James Hudson is actually a left tackle as opposed to Joshua Azudu, who's a guard and was forced into tackle and was obviously not good at it. And number 3, in the worst case scenario, if James Hudson is that awful, they have the option where they can move Illuminor over to left tackle and put Marcus Bowe in at right tackle, or they could just put Marcus Bowe in at left tackle. Now, that scares me a little bit as a rookie with Russ's blind side, but we're not talking about the Eagles' defensive line that they're going against, right? The Commanders' defensive line is nowhere near as good as the Giants or as good as the Eagles. So call me a homer, say whatever. I think the Giants did a lot more to improve this offseason than the Commanders did. I think the Commanders had some beginner luck last year. I think there's a lot of question marks about both teams, but I think ultimately the Giants are going to squeeze this one out. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. I think it's going to be 17-14. Giants win. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We're going to have to rely on Graham Gano, but I think they can do it. I think they're going to do enough to get to the rookie right tackle and to force pressure on Jaden. I think there's going to be opportunities possibly for our defense to force turnovers. I think that when it comes to picking your poison versus Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter, it's going to be real hard, especially week 1, because there's no film on these guys working together. So, like I said, I'm optimistic. Call me crazy. Call me a homer. We could be talking about something very different by the time Monday rolls around. But, I just think this team is capable of winning football games. And when you look at the schedule, the Commanders are not one of the much better teams that they're going to play against that they have no chance against, like the Eagles. So anyway, I'm rooting for a win here. I think the Giants have the chance to go 1-0. You guys let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. Enjoy the game. Go Giants, and we will chat on Monday.